Following the announcement of a Steven Universe spin-off series, an outpouring of excitement has filled the fandom. However, in spite of this, another consensus has been brewing alongside it.
Lars? That's who we're making a spin-off about? No, genuinely, who gives a about Lars? I'm pissed. We could have gotten a Gem Wars show, but instead we get Pad Bradshaw for 24 episodes. I just don't see how this would be a profitable show. Does anyone really care about Lars and not just hoping to see the main cast? Come on, guys, I mean... Okay, that one was me, but my point still stands.
So why the mixed response? Why do fans hold such contempt towards a Lars storyline? In this video, I want to analyze the public opinion of Lars within the fandom by exploring his character arc and his function within the show, why he's so much more than an annoying jerk, and why a Lars of the Stars spin-off is the perfect choice for a continuation of the story. When discussing public perception, Lars is a highly contentious character. Early reactions to Lars cast him away as simply a jerk, and while this assumption disregards the depth this character holds, they aren't far from the truth. Lars narratively functions as a foil to our protagonist, Steven. Lars embodies a fear of expressing his true self and is in direct contrast to Steven, who is unapologetically sincere and champions the core message of the show, self-expression and identity. Lars' arc is defined by the consequences of masking one's authentic self in the pursuit of social acceptance. Established in episodes like Lars and the Cool Kids, we see Lars consistently sabotage his relationships by trying to project a version of himself which he believes is more socially desirable. Whilst Lars attempts to assimilate with the Cool Kids, he masks his true self as a defense mechanism, seeking to shield himself from social ostracization. However, the ironic tragedy is that the concealing of his true self only helps to isolate him further. His repeated attempts to appeal to the Cool Kids only make him appear performative and disingenuous. This episode reinforces the message of authenticity and demonstrates how a performative self only breeds hollow connections. Beneath his hollow performance of confidence, Lars harbors a deep vulnerability, one that comes to a head in the episode The Good Lars. When Lars is invited to a potluck with the Cool Kids, an act that aids in his goal of befriending them, he's far more fearful than excited. In choosing the ube role, a dish that is both personal in that it was a dessert from his childhood as well as originating from his Filipino heritage, he's exposing an authentic part of himself whilst also shining a light on his passion for baking, which he considers shameful. He worries that the dish will paint him in a way that makes him appear lame, especially to a group which he believes values irony and detachment. Although encouraged by Steven, Lars ultimately discards the dish in the bin outside, a physical representation of his fears of self-expression. This moment highlights a core struggle within Lars. To be authentic is to risk exposing yourself to social rejection.
Okay, that's like cool and all, but why should we care?
We've been spoon-fed glimpses of Lars' internal world, but we never really see it bubble up to the surface. Although the story breadcrumbs ideas of redemption, we only ever really observe the opposite. Lars has been so vehemently painted as a jerk that when the show hints at something deeper, it ends up falling on deaf ears. When the show decides to explore the softer side of Lars, such as his passion for baking, we write it off as much more time has been spent showing him being a douchebag. So when only 2 episodes later the same cycle continues in I Am My Mom, we aren't really surprised. When Sadie is in danger due to the result of his own inaction, we finally believe Lars will step up and save her. However, Lars chooses to run, perpetuating the cycle of fear he has been defined by his entire life. This moment of inertia ends up stranding him in space, where he laments his own fears, finally verbalizing the truth of how his insecurities have controlled his existence. This signals the beginning of genuine self-reflection and Lars' first step to transformation. However, this acknowledgement of change may be far too little too late, especially for a character many have already written off. Repeatedly, Lars has been shaped by his cowardice, and now it's at the expense of others. This displays that Lars' mistakes aren't rewarded by the show, nor do they come free of consequence. Lars' path to redemption is not handed to him, he genuinely has to reflect and grow from his faults. And although Lars verbalizes his fears, that change needs to be shown, and that's exactly what the show does. When finally escaping the clutches of the diamonds, the two meet the Off-Colors, a band of defective gems hiding in the underbelly of the cruel gem homeworld. The Off-Colors are a mirror of Lars' own insecurities, hiding away as their true selves are shunned by the world around them, labeling them as defective.
Afraid of you? So you've been hiding your whole lives?
So when the Ruchal twins are in danger, Lars finally stepped up, transcending the risk that he's putting his own life on the line and rising above his worries by embracing the feeling of fear. When he discovers he's the only one that cannot be detected by the Robonoids, he realizes he's the only one that can help keep the Off-Colors safe. However, when Lars finally reckons with his fears, and it looks like he's grown, he dies.
Lars!
Redemption equals death is a common trope in media where a villainous character makes amends for their past mistakes. However, their redemption comes at the cost of their own life. It displays a noble act and a first step to transformation as a tragic sacrifice. Within the framing of Steven Universe, Lars finally conquers his cowardice by finally standing up for the Off-Colors. However, he dies trying to protect them, ultimately saving them at the cost of his own life. This trope is used to create narrative closure and give emotional impact for a character on the brink of moral enlightenment. The con of this trope is that it undermines the growth of a character by not allowing them to fully transform into a better person. However, Steven Universe subverts this trope. Just as we think Lars is dead, Steven's tears bring him back to life. Lars' revival, whilst being literal, also thematically shows his rebirth into a more brave and confident character, acting as a physical representation of how much Lars has grown throughout the entire series. A rebirth also allows him to prove himself and demonstrate that his growth isn't something that is a one-time act of bravery, but an entire shift in perspective. Lars' shift in hue also symbolically represents his assimilation to the off-colors due to his unconventional appearance, setting him apart from his humanity but solidifying his place within the off-colors. So when we return to Lars a couple episodes later, his personality is dramatically different. He is the fearless captain of the off-colors, commanding the crew and calling the shots. Although his confidence is shown heavily, there is one key thing that solidifies Lars' growth: his risk-taking. Throughout Steven Universe, Lars' identity is defined by his aversion to risks. His masking of his identity is a defense mechanism founded on the idea that exposing your true self is risking social ostracization. However, as his role as captain, his path forward is guided by risks. Without the risks Lars took, they would have likely been still stranded on the Gem homeworld. His position as a space outlaw completely contrasts his original self, and presents Lars as unabashedly true to himself, finding community in a group which prides itself on its non-conformist nature. Lars is able to break free from the shackles of societal expectations by finally accepting fear and risk, and finding community in a group of like-minded misfits. Lars' storyline highlights exactly how conforming to the ideals of others only tends to isolate you further, and you must accept and express your authentic self before you're able to truly find community. It shows that despite past mistakes, you can learn to grow and understand them, letting the consequence of your mistakes not shackle you to stagnation, but rather be a guiding light in making better decisions in the future, acknowledging your faults and growing beyond them. His character growth exemplifies the core message of change and acceptance in the show, by Lars expressing his true self without concern about what others think. And despite this, I can still understand why some might still be on the fence. Lars' shift in character is dramatic and quick, likely exacerbated by the cancellation of the show. We are told of Lars' growth, and we see the end product of it. However, we never really quite see the process. For some, this significant shift, whilst built up to, comes far too quickly. It's almost as if we've been exposed to the first and last step of his transformation, forcing audiences to suspend their disbelief. However, doesn't that give even more merit to extending his story? A Lars spin-off is exactly what could fill in the blanks of Lars' transformation, and provide and more importantly show the evidence of Lars' growth, as well as building out the struggles and conflicts that come with his new way of life. Ironically, those most strongly against Lars are exactly why a Lars spin-off makes so much sense. The forgiveness of the diamonds and the Steven-only point of view have long been contentious topics in critique of the show. Within Lars, we are exposed to a new perspective, not shackled by the Steven-centric point of view the show was originally bound to. A Lars perspective gives a unique opportunity to explore the Gem Empire and provide new insight that isn't weighed down by Steven's emotional bias. Topics like the diamonds can be recontextualized through a far more critical lens, as they are no longer needed to rehabilitate the gems, allowing the show to explore and physically demonstrate the actual damage the diamonds have caused by visiting the colonies they overlooked, as well as recognize firsthand the discrimination levied by them by following the off-colors whose way of life is dictated by the diamond's prejudice. This is not unlike the way that Steven Universe Future was able to recontextualize the trauma that Steven underwent in the original series, expanding the way in which we view the show as a whole. Steven Universe Future took time to explore multiple critiques of the original show, both exploring Steven's thinly veiled disdain for the diamonds, taking a jab at the Steven-only perspective, and playing with Steven's need to change people's minds. Lars of the Stars will be able to not only make commentary on these critiques, but also make them a key part of the story. Obviously by having a new protagonist, but also the unbiased perspective a new protagonist can bring. The synopsis promises to explore the past, present, and future of the Steven Universe and uncover the dark secrets of the fallen Gem Empire. An assurance to discover the deeper lore of the Gem race, something fans have sought after for some time. Despite this, many believe that a Gem War prequel would do this far better. I heavily disagree. Although reuniting with original characters would offer nostalgia and establish character dynamics, it would ultimately constrain the narrative. Making a prequel series would not only revert the development of the characters and inhibit the tension as well as their growth due to their predetermined path, but also restrict the possibility of exploring the future of the Gem hierarchy being firmly set in the past. In contrast, the Lars spin-off allows us to explore and build up new characters as well as revisit the old. With its promise to explore the past, present, and future, we aren't exclusively limited to experiencing the ancient Gem War, but are enabled to explore throughout the Gem timeline, weaving in historical context through Lars' impartial lens. Lars being unfamiliar with Gem culture allows for exposition to be relevant rather than contrived, as well as allowing him to be a stand-in for the audience. His ignorance acts as a positive, as it makes exposition feel earned and harbours curiosity. This is in heavy contrast to a Gem War spin-off, which may risk feeling forced as characters discuss concepts they would likely already have knowledge of. By following Lars, as strangers to the Gem world, we avoid the pitfalls of redundancy and allow new insight into Gem culture in a genuine and nuanced way, with a character that mirrors the knowledge of the audience, allowing us to learn alongside them. Lars is a character that has undergone excessive scrutiny within the fandom, being one of the most hated characters initially due to his rude and standoffish behaviour. However, over the course of the story, we see this performance is rooted in fear and insecurity, a defense mechanism to keep himself safe from social rejection. As Lars grows, he learns to accept this fear by connecting with the Off-Colors, a band of misfit gems defined by their outcast nature. When he dies trying to save them, he is resurrected both physically and metaphorically, undergoing a complete change. Given a second chance, Lars transforms into a confident and daring captain, being guided by risks and allowing himself to accept fear. Although many are still on the fence regarding his character, a Lars spin-off gives a unique opportunity to explore a new perspective, one that shies away from the Steven-centric point of view the show has originally been tied to, allowing for a new lens of critique and analysis. Following a character that has the ability to explore the entire timeline of the show from a new and unbiased perspective that mirrors the audience's understanding. With this, we can both explore concepts longtime fans have sought after, as well as expand on new and interesting characters. Lars' storyline mirrors the ideals of self-acceptance and growth that the original show founded, making a spin-off following him a natural and obvious continuation of the universe of the show.
You think I'm capable of anything? You think I can do all this stuff? But I can't! I can't because I'm a wuss, Steven. I'm just afraid. I've always just been stupid and afraid. Not like you. You're always helping people. You're never. You said yourself that everyone on this planet is out to get you. You won't be safe until you're back on Earth. But, Lars, don't argue with me. You're always trying to help me. You brought me back to life. Just let me be somebody who deserved it.
Hello, thank you for making it to the end of my video. If you made it this far, consider subscribing. I'm very new to this, so it'd be greatly appreciated. More importantly, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think. I love talking about this show, as you could probably tell. So let me know if you agree. Let me know, would you rather a Gem War prequel? Let me know. And one more thing, I've been blown away by the support in my last video. I really appreciate the response, and I've tried to talk a bit slower for all the people lost. So thank you so much for that critique. Goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day.